Got it right here. Bam, first place. Oh my god, no, we just flipped. Oh my god. I think we died. Oh my god, that was a total. We momentarily had our first place. I love the Mafia series. It's certainly inconsistent, sort of like my YouTube upload schedule, and each game has its many ups and downs, but there's a charming quality to the franchise that pulls me in. Even the third game, which is broken and buggy, was able to keep me hooked with its top-tier protagonist and excellent story. Although, with that title in mind, I was both hyped and wary upon the announcement of the Mafia 1 remake. That sense of worry grew tenfold when not long after the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition was launched in an abysmal state. I mean, it goes without saying, but the franchise's recent track record is sloppy. But thankfully, good things can still occur because this remake is fantastic. I haven't touched the OG Mafia since it originally came out on the PS2, and growing up I had a love-hate relationship with it. I first played it not long after release and got stuck on the dreaded racing mission. If you're unfamiliar, this is a race that to this day still causes adults the world over to break down and cry as memories of it flood back. It's notorious for being the place where countless gamers got stuck, their progression halted in the cruelest of ways. Quite frankly, it's probably the toughest and just worst driving mission since the tutorial in Driver on the PS1. For me, it was around 13 years of age when I got stuck on the race, and it soured me on the experience. I actually quit Mafia for quite a few months, but eventually, I returned and beat it. And minus that stupid race, I love the game. It's a favorite of the PS2 era. That was almost 20 years ago though, and I haven't played it since, so to call my memories of the experience hazy would be an understatement. So in some ways I went into this remake blind. Key plot details were forgotten, a number of missions I had no recollection of, and gameplay bits and level design I couldn't tell you much about. But as I played this remake, doorways within my mind opened up and bits and pieces returned, and the whole thing brought me to a realm of nostalgic bliss. Tapping into an older style of game design is where it most shines, to which I'll be straight up. If you head into this title looking for a fancy game which feels like something made in 2020, you'll be disappointed. It's certainly fun to play, and it looks and sounds like something created with a modern audience in mind, but there's a datedness which permeates the entire experience. The gunplay works, but it's not excellent. There's a cover mechanic which is simplified to the extreme. Fistfights have zero depth. Cars never drive quite right. Movement is sort of stiff, and for a game which gives off the impression of an open world, it's very linear. For fans of Mafia, this is what we want. It's a modern remake which still plays like the game it's based on, and I think even gamers unfamiliar with the title will find a lot to like. But no doubt, it will turn off many others too. So just keep that in mind as you watch my review. It might be for you, it might not. Just know what you're getting into. Quickly speaking, to fans of the original, the remake brings with it an optional classic difficulty setting that I think you'll love. I beat it on this mode during my second run of the game, and while not impossibly hard, it's still sorta tough in some areas, especially the race. Holy fuck does classic mode make the race an utter bitch. I think I'll still have nightmares of it 20 years from now. This in part because it makes Kari's control worse, a developmental tactic to make the game play as close to the original as possible. I actually recommend playing on this mode if you're a veteran of the series, or if you're new and want to be challenged. Speaking now to those who aren't familiar with Mafia, it's important that you first and foremost understand that this is a narrative-driven game. Its linearity is testament to that. Its open-world structure is misleading. There's really not much to do outside of story missions. There is a free roam mode accessible from the menu, and while free roaming, there are 11 phone booth racing missions to complete, and in doing so you'll unlock some new vehicles and outfits, but other than that, there's really just collectibles. It's the collectibles where, in my opinion, the game falters, as while they are totally optional, there's simply way too many of them. Some can be found in missions, and those are fine and dandy, as they add extra flavor to the world, given they're based off old comics and pulp fictions, and it was fun to see each cover. There's even cigarette cards which expand the lore of the characters from the series, and I like taking in the extra bits of story. But where the collectibles go overboard are the ones hidden in the open world. These include more comics and pulps, but also 50 Fox statues. It's pointless padding, and outside of a PSN trophy and some costumes and stuff, I don't think my time was adequately rewarded for seeking all 150 plus items out. As a much better open world collectible, there are 5 hidden cars and some of them are pretty cool. I'll only show one here as to avoid spoiling the others, but look how neat the sucker is. I enjoyed speeding through the city in it, even if it did sorta break the game with just how fast it was and how tightly it controlled. I just wish there were more meaningful destinations to take it. I'm sure some diehard fans will disagree with me here, but in the realm of a remake, I'm not opposed to developers taking creative liberties to add new content, and there's certainly room in the open world for extra missions, as there's a massive section of countryside that rarely gets used in the main plot, and the addition of story-driven side quests would have been much appreciated. The world is so gorgeous, and I just want more reason to spend time within it, which is a compliment to its visual direction. Lost Heaven, the fictionalized version of Chicago where the game takes place, looks phenomenal. It's not graphically up to the level of a $100 million AAA game, and I'm sure YouTube compression rates here is making it look even worse, but with the budget the devs had, they did wonderfully. There's many nice touches, and there were times where I just relaxed and walked around the city, taking it all in. I got immersed within its world in a way I haven't with any other game this year. Part of this is probably due to the little things they've done to help make it more believable. Within missions are little side stories happening with random NPCs. These are completely unrelated to the main plot and just flesh out characters you'll never see again. When you kill someone, their gun falls to the concrete with a realistic sounding clatter. The radio broadcasts make for some great world building, detailing both real world events and fictionalized ones. A baseball broadcast during one particular mission is especially well done. Walking through blood leaves satisfying footprints. Adding to the immersion is that just like the original, you can be pulled over for traffic violations. The reflection in puddles of water is fantastic. During a mission within a thunderstorm, the visuals are almost scary, and the creaking of trees in the wind is spooky. When you stop a car after a long drive, the metal ticks from the heat as one would do in real life, and that's just scratching the surface of how the visual elements and sound design combines to make the city feel real and believable. Upping the immersive factor even more is that the world reacts to the player during missions. It's subtle and will be missed by quite a few, but the game takes into account your actions and doesn't punish or cheat you for it. For instance, in one early mission you need to go save a member of the family, and after a shootout inside the building where he's being kept, one of the bad guys flees and ends up in his vehicle, and this leads to what is almost a chase sequence tutorial. However, if the player destroys his car before engaging in the initial combat sequence, when the guy runs outside, he has no set of wheels to jump into and you can gun him down right there. There's a few other minor instances like this, and I really appreciated their inclusion. It's smart game design, it's a reactive world, and even stalling and not completing an objective can lead to secret bits of dialogue and the like.
I'll do whatever you say. No one needs to get hurt. Keep moving. You good? Manager's dead.
So take his key. Move it. We don't got much time.
I got the vault key.
As many will know based off my previous reviews, I don't like delving into story bits outside of the most basic descriptions, as I'm not one to intentionally spoil anything. So all I'll say is that Mafia begins in the early 1930s as cab driver Tommy Angelo is brought in by the Salieri crime family after a run-in with some of its members. In the very first mission, he is forced to help them flee a rival family, only for this to later result in his car being vandalized and his life threatened. It's here that he gets a chance to seek revenge. What follows is a multi-year story which highlights his rise and eventual fall from grace. As far as video game stories from 2002 go, this one is really good. It's definitely tropey, and if you've seen any popular Mafia TV series or films, you'll know where the story is going, but it pulls it off well, in part because its characters are so great. The cutscenes are largely enjoyable, and outside of a couple of them being too brightly lit, I was sucked into them. Action scenes are very well shot. Making it all resonate are vocal performances, which are once again really good. For those who are sticklers of the original, let it be known that they recast roles, so some of the voices are certainly different, but I personally don't mind. From the voice acting to the cutscenes, everything is expressive. Some scenes involving Tommy and his love interest are especially good. I do wish there were more of her though, and this may roll back into an earlier criticism of the game lacking meaningful side missions. But even focusing on just what's here, I walk away satisfied. As said previously, I really just adore Lost Heaven, and spending more time in it would have been pleasant. As for the game itself, it's broken into 20 missions, and there's just enough variety to keep it going. It certainly avoids overstaying its welcome. In one mission, you'll trash some cars and then flee from police. In another, you'll have a crazy shootout in a parking garage which ends in a chase sequence. Others involve lengthy shootouts, and the list goes on. The only aspect that got the most dull is the fist-fighting mechanic, which it relies on just a little too much. Had it been more fleshed out or contained more brutal finishers, there could have been something there, but as it stands now, it's as basic as a fighting mechanic can get. You can actually just spam the dodge button with a 0 penalty, and then just throw punches after the enemy misses a swing. Upon landing enough hits, a finisher occurs, but there's only so many, and after seeing the grisly executions in Mafia 3, I wish this game got more violent. What can I say? I love a good murder boner. Back to the missions themselves, there's only 2.5 I disliked. One involves a boring forced stealth bit outside of a mansion, and the other is the race. Listen, younger me is still traumatized by that thing. As for the other half mission I disliked, it's a section involving a motorcycle chase, and the bike controls like complete ass. I failed it multiple times because I just couldn't get the hang of its steering. The parts before and after it were cool though. Outside of the 2.5 missions I disliked, I love the rest of them, so that's a majority of the game that is quite strong. I will stress once again that there is a basic and older style of design behind them, and the mechanics the game relies on isn't overly complex. Shooting is merely serviceable, but it packs a nice wallop, and with the need for med packs to refill Tommy's health, some areas provide a decent challenge. There's not too many guns, but I never got sick of shotgunning a dude in the head. Adding an extra flair to a couple missions are explosive set pieces. One early mission sees a building get demolished in spectacular fashion, and it's one of the most memorable moments from the remake. I just wish there were more instances like it, for the simple fact that explosions are cool, and I like seeing the physics of them. The only gameplay area where I think most people get frustrated is the sheer amount of driving involved. You will do a ton of driving. The devs did add an ability to skip to a destination, but I strongly advise it on the first run of the game, as you'll miss dialogue and story bits and such. The game is only also about 10 hours long, so skipping drives would probably cut off 2 to 3 hours of playtime. I'm not actually sure how much of that is a joke. On the technical side of things, it ran mostly well. Definitely a million times better than Mafia 3 or the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. I ran into a couple minor bugs when I was live streaming the game, but nothing major. Though one did require a restart as a cutscene broke and kept me within a black screen. The most bugs I encountered was when I was chasing collectibles in free roam. Here I found a section of the map where the lighting completely breaks, and I ran into some wonky physics involving trucks. Outside of that, it's really not too bad. And that's really all I gotta say. I loved my time with this remake. It's not perfect, and there are elements from the original that are missing, but it's still a strong remake, and I think it will revitalize the series. On the day of its release, I streamed the entire thing on Twitch in one sitting. It was about a 10-hour stream, but coming in at just $40, and with the classic mode which pushed me to play a second time, I think my money was well spent. If Mafia 4 got announced, I'd be excited. Something I'm not sure I'd be if all I had to go off of was Mafia 3 or the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. So thank you, Mafia Remake. You revitalized my hope in the series. I give you an 8 out of 10. Penis. Oh god, oh god! Oh! Oh no! Oh! We just... Oh. He's trans now. I mean, she...